Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a week, literally. Before I say anything, I just want to say that there is going to be an announcement at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned for it. And I'm going to continue on with talking about this week's episode and next week's episode. So I know a lot of the time when I start off my videos, I'm usually like, oh my god, I'm so shook, and I'm just like telling you how like shook I am over the episode, but this is different. This episode, season 14 episode 12, has marked the list as one of my favorite episodes because of that end scene. And if you saw the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think I've rewatched the scene at least 50 times at this point. Why Don't You Believe in Us is the new so, and I was not expecting that.
You finished this trial? You're dead, Sam. So?
I honestly don't really care about the scenes with Nick that much. I'm sorry, but I just need to say my feelings about this episode before I get into any of my theories. This episode had a very dark feel to it, especially starting out with Dean having the nightmare of being in the box. Them showing that as the first scene told me that this was gonna be different, this was gonna be sad, and this was gonna be an episode that leads up to Dean not going through with his plan. The whole kind of undertone of the episode is that Sam does not want Dean to go through with this because, you know, it's a suicide mission and it's also Dean. But the amount of times that it's hinted at us just leads up to the heart-wrenching scene that fucking broke me. Now, I know I can be a little bit overdramatic when it comes to reacting to Supernatural in general. You freaking bricks! But this felt really different. Sam finally standing up to Dean and talking him out of doing this fucking plan was a scene that I will never forget. Like last week's episode, it ended on a bittersweet note, and Dean was also right last week when he said that Sam was the only one who could talk him out of doing it because Sam ended up being the one to talk him out of it. Jared's acting in that scene honestly reminded me so much of the season 8 finale. It was wonderfully executed and yet again showed us how much of an amazing actor that Jared is, and Jensen as well. The whole episode had this dark tone leading up to Sam just fucking snapping at Dean. And Dean needed that. He really did. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand why Dean thinks this is the best option for him. But Sam has always been the one who's had faith. He's always been the one to look for other options, and now that Dean lost his faith, Sam has to be the one to step up and bring it back. Because, you know, he's the only person who could do it for Dean. The thing with this season is now that Sam is kind of like everybody's leader, Dean's not necessarily sidelined, but he's dealing with his own shit right now, which we get. So while Sam has to look out for Dean and research ways to help him, and on top of that, lead all the people in the bunker as well, that has to be a lot for him to adjust to, considering it's always kind of been Dean in charge for the most part. While I do like Sam actually having the chance to take up that step as a leader, it does worry me a little bit just because Sam and Dean both can't be leaders without each other. I'm also very glad that we finally got a scene of Sam actually letting Dean know how he feels. I feel like these past few seasons have been more Dean-centric than Sam-centric, and while I love both of them equally, Sam will always have a special place in my heart. But letting Sam finally just snap at Dean and talk him out of his plan was the best moment of this season, and probably one of the best scenes that Sam and Dean have had in a while. He literally just proved Dean right, that he could talk him out of it, and it was beautiful. I'm also really glad that Cass was put into that scene towards the end, because I think we all needed this scene, and this scene was what Supernatural is about. Anyways, me going into depth about 3-minute scenes is a thing that happens way too often on my channel, but we gotta talk about theories. The 300th episode is next week. From the looks of the promo, I think Supernatural had us goofed. The episode is kind of like a French Mistake 2.0, which I don't hate. Similar to how the 200th episode had kind of like a humorous tone to it, I think so will the 300th episode, while also having that bittersweet family reunion. I feel like after the most recent episode, this is something that we need, considering Dean's polar plunge isn't fully off the table yet. I am expecting John to return and give Sam and Dean a good amount of closure. In the most recent episode, they kind of hinted more so at them feeling kind of neglected by John, which they have every right to feel that way because John was kind of neglectful as a parent. We've already seen this before. I don't think Sam and Dean are going to let shit slide this time. I'm hoping that this episode kind of helps Sam and Dean move forward from the childhood trauma they have from their dad. From the looks of the promo for the 300th episode, Sam says that their timelines are changing, which could explain the return of Zachariah and John Winchester. Dean says, so what is there, two of us running around, which I'm a little bit scared of. I'm not sure if that's true or not. It could just be Sam and Dean from a different year time traveling to stop something bad from happening. Maybe the inevitable with Michael, but here's what I think is gonna happen. So, timelines are changing, buddies. Alright, Sam sees the mugshot from Dean back in season 2 when he was in Little Rock and has like a wanted sign on it. And apparently Sam is internet famous. A few episodes ago, Sam mentions how he could be just like Nick if he made one wrong move while possessed by Lucifer. You thinking what I'm thinking? I think this episode is going to be similar to a flashback episode, but not exactly like that. It's going to show us the what-ifs in Sam and Dean's life, like resulting in John being alive, similar to how Balthazar time traveled and prevented the Titanic from sinking. I think that something is going to be time traveling in the episode that's going to result in John coming back for the episode. But another theory that I do have is how this could end for John, and it would be him actually helping solve the Michael problem. As Sam implied in last night's episode, there may not be an option today, but there is always one tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean next Thursday on Supernatural. I'm thinking that possibly as a makeup for all the shitty parenting John has made Sam and Dean endure, they find a way to expel Michael from Dean, and John ends up taking on that burden. While I don't think this is a huge possibility, it is a small little thought in my mind though. Another thing that could explain the time... You want to not? One thing that does stick out to me is the timeline changes. So another thing that could explain the timeline changes would be the alternative universe. Like Billy said, opening portals to other worlds is pretty dangerous and can mess up the way the universe works. By having all the extra people from the Apocalypse world in the bunker, and by having Michael alive inside of Dean as a threat to the entire world, it's messing up fate, hence why there can be a timeline change or like a time shift or some shit like that. It could be the two universes mixing with each other, if that makes sense. Considering the fact that in the Apocalypse world, Mary never sold her soul, which means that Sam and Dean wouldn't have been born, but maybe because of the fact that these two universes have somewhat collided with each other, maybe the timelines kind of have to combine and make their own kind of like timeline, if that makes sense. It's kind of a stretch, but it does sound pretty reasonable. I personally don't think that the 300th episode is going to be very plot related though. After the emotional roller coaster that was Thursday's episode, I think we need some happy stuff, and a family reunion seems happy enough for me. One thing I wanted to mention was the white credits at the end of the episode, Profit and Loss. I haven't seen a lot of people trying to figure out what that means. I honestly think that after a scene as emotional as the one we saw last night, they ended it on a white screen instead of a black one to kind of show healing for Sam and Dean, because that was something that they definitely needed. Like what we're leading up to, kind of. It makes sense. Sam and Dean are finally having it out and talking to each other, even though it involves Sam having to fucking knock some sense, literally, into Dean. And leading into the next episode, we're going to be able to see that healing continue with them reconnecting as a family. At least that's my own take on the white end screen. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. For the rest of the season, I have a feeling that we are going to continue to have the issue of finding a way to get Michael out of Dean for good if the whole John theory isn't correct. I think that this may be the season finale plot. And I honestly think that this talk that Dean had with Sam at the end is foreshadowing that Sam's going to eventually have to be the one to lock Dean in the box. Of course, he'll find his way out because he is a Winchester, but I think that having that coffin around is just going to be a constant reminder to Dean of the Archangel that he's harboring inside of his mind. I think John is only going to be sticking around for this one episode, and I think that we are unfortunately going to have to deal with the subplot of Nick until Lucifer finally decides to show up. And now that we got renewed for season 15, woo! I'm hoping that this subplot isn't dragged into the next season, which I don't think it will be. Regardless, this episode was the best episode of the season so far, and even though that's probably a biased statement because of how much I feel about that last scene, I don't care. Now that I'm finally done crying inside about Supernatural, no I'm not. I think it's time for my announcement. Jackers, take it away.
Sorry, no Ghostbusters here. I tricked you. But what does this mean? Who is this mascot, you ask? Well, let me explain. Jade, Supernatural fans, if you're watching this in my best picture, you're probably wondering what the hell is going on. Well, let me explain. My name is Jackers. You can find me at youtube.com/TheDeadLighterCollection. Once again, that's youtube.com/TheDeadLighterCollection. Where most importantly, me and Jade, every Thursday night after the episode, will be filming spoilerific analysis as well as predictions for what we hope to come in the Supernatural show itself. And also, we will give you your time to shine. Give us questions, give us comments. We'll comment on your questions and comments. Give you what we think, what we like, what we don't. What we think is an absolute scandal of brilliance. Maybe. Now, what else is there? You get to help me and Jade in 2 lofty goals. What does that mean? Well, by 2020 Comic-Con, we want to become press credentialed in either the Supernatural Convention or the Comic-Con in order to interview J Squared themselves as well as the rest of the cast if they are there and time permits. And why would you care? Because we're going to do it using mostly your questions. So hit that subscribe, hit that bell, and follow us and let your friends know. And my best Michael Keaton. What would you tell your friends about me? I'm Jackers. Or Batman, I mean, sorry. Anyway, the second goal. What is it, you ask? Well, I'm a writer. I'm going to write spec for Supernatural to try to get a job either on the show or in TV and film at all. I come from a showbiz family, believe it or not, but I don't want to use nepotism as a reason that I failed upwards in Hollywood like most people these days. Now, what is spec? Well, I'm going to write a 2-episode arc that promises to be the best of Supernatural itself, in the fact that it brings the best frenemy they'll ever have since Crowley and Balthazar. In fact, this guy used to play poker with them. And will not only fix heaven, give Castiel his wings back, but be as batshit insane as giving Dean and Sam the actual weapon that was underneath their noses, believe it or not, all along. Here's a hint. Monsters, angels, devils, demons. Who can become what and when? Ha! I see your eyes are open and you're wondering. I can feel it, baby. So once again, join me and Jade every Friday as the video is posted. And give us that comments, give us that subscribe, and definitely remember to hit that bell because YouTube sometimes is a son of a bitch. And we need all the help we can get these days. Signing off in my best newsroom spokesman guy. Back to you, Jade.
You heard him, folks. So I'm going to leave the links to his channel down below. I am going to be featuring on his channel. We're going to be making new Supernatural content. I am still going to be posting my content weekly on this channel as well. This is my channel, but we're going to be working on some other stuff together over there. All Supernatural stuff, all the good shit. So I really suggest you go check it out. And yeah, you heard the man. Go subscribe, go like, go do that shit. So guys, thank you for watching. I will leave the channel link up on the screen somewhere in a few seconds. But I hope you all have a nice day and don't get possessed by any demons. Bye!